Hello, this is Brian Higney, instructor of Game and Interactive Media Design here at High Point University. Third video for week 12, which we are going to look at creating swatches for a color scheme for your audio story. Let me look again at this example right here. You can see that this student really focused on the grounds crew as I think it's the grounds crew, and a lot of this happened at the field, the baseball field. So you can see this student used green for their color scheme, and he's got darks and lights, blues from the sky and the seats. Or I guess those are purple, but maybe the blue came from the sky. I'm not going to critique your color scheme per se, but I'll try to help you make it more relevant. So I think maybe green and blue for sky and grass. Also, this John Deere is nice and green, so the green makes sense. Blue kind of makes sense. And there's this lighter color here that maybe comes from the color of the dirt in the baseball field. That's what it looks like, as you can see it here, almost blending in with that. And so this student has chosen 3 colors to work with, and that has various shades and tints of each color. So for instance, this green text over this green stripe here, he's working with contrast in order to see that text. Imagine if this text was the same color as this light green in the background, right? It wouldn't work. It would be illegible. Likewise, I'm not sure, yeah, there is a very light blue. Imagine if the blue text down here was the same exact light blue. I'm assuming this text is a little duller or darker. You may think it's the same color, but it's likely not, because a lighter blue here for the text would actually be very hard to read. So that's the point of me saying, hey, we're going to put all of this in color. You're not going to get away with using white background and black text. I want to know that when you add color to your work, however you're doing it, whether it's a video, whether it's a brochure, whether it's a document for your clients, that your clients can read things. Your users and your viewers can read things. So this is the point of doing this. And the other thing I want to show you is the actual blog post assignment, which is called Swatchy Schemey. And it's easy to see an example. It's easier to look at the example post. The student took an inspirational photograph, or a photograph from which to gain some color scheme inspiration. Now this is from a Lily Pulitzer dress pattern. Hey guys, Lily Pulitzer, or the designers, or whoever made this print, I think she makes her own prints, right? So they spent time on their color scheme for this. So this student here, I'm not saying this is lazy, this is just, she used an existing color scheme and kind of dissected it, right? Now, this particular color scheme, if you kind of look, there's only one shade of this reddish color, but your assignment is to start with that color and make 2 different shades, or this is actually 2 different tints. When you make a tint of a hue, you're adding the color white to it. When you make a shade of a hue, you're adding the color black to it. So we are making tints. You could make shades if you'd like to, but it's easier to make tints in InDesign. So she took the reddish, the greenish, and the dark green, or dark purplish, started with those on the 3 left squares, and then added white to it. And that's pretty much what we're going to be doing right now. And then, of course, added what I call nameplates. And to be honest, guys, this isn't that interesting. Some people love their work here so much they end up putting it on their LinkedIn banner. If you want to do that, go for it. That's not what I mean us to do. Number one, I want us to understand contrast. So you see in the middle here, her green name does not really contrast against this dark background, and nor does the broadcaster, actress, dancer, writer. It's totally hard to see. Down here, this dark name definitely contrasts, but again, this contrasts less. It's still very hard to read. The top one is likely the best contrasting work. All right. So how and why are we doing this again? Because I want you to prepare for setting up the colors for your photo story in the magazine. And there's more to it as well, which we'll get to in a second. So let's go ahead and go to your InDesign layout. That's now like the 4-page spread. If you don't have your content yet, that's totally fine. I'm going to show you how we work. I'm just going to set up a grid in this page too. Once you set up this 9-square grid, you can delete it when you're done. We're really only doing this for the blog post, and so that I can get swatches in my InDesign document. So let's go ahead. Number one, we are going to learn how to make shapes. So we've imported images, we've used text. We are going to come down here and create a rectangle using the rectangle tool. And I'm going to draw out a rectangle, but I want to use a square. So while I'm drawing it out, I'm going to hold down the Shift button, and I'm going to draw a square about this size. And I'm going to let go of my mouse button, let go of my Shift button. And I'm not going to draw another square. I'm going to go to my selection tool, the black arrow with the white outline, not the white arrow. Don't you dare use that white arrow yet. Okay, when I use the selection tool, it's going to automatically select that square. And if it doesn't, note that you have to actually select the border of this square for some stupid reason. And I do say stupid. This is dumb. I hate it. Every year, it starts off like this. If you click the middle of the square, it's not selecting it because it's hollow. There is no inside yet. If you select it now, okay, good. Over in the Properties tab, there's a tab over here on the right. Click Properties, okay? Under Appearance, down towards the bottom, you're going to see Fill is a red line through it. That means there is no fill. I'm going to double-click that, or single-click that, and you can see we can actually turn this into an existing swatch. Let's go ahead and turn it this ugly blue. I hate that blue. Or we could turn it into this ugly color as well. All of these colors are ugly. If I see these colors in your photo story magazine, I'm going to be completely and utterly devastatedly disappointed. So don't disappoint me, people. We're going to create our own colors, our own swatches, but let's go ahead and just use the ugly colors that they give us for right now. We're going to do that. We're going to click on stroke, and we're going to give it none for stroke. I do not want to see the ugly stroke on your squares. Strokes are going to be really ugly here. You'll see why in a moment when we're finished. All right, so when we click off of here, we now have a, what is this, magenta maybe? This reddish, pinkish square. And if I tap W, you can see that it has no stroke. If I tap W again and we look at edited version, yes, it looks like it has a stroke value. That is just the color of the layer because it wants to show you where that square is. And to show you why, let's say that fill was actually hollow with no fill and you clicked off of it, it looks like it has fill, but if I go to W, it's actually blank. It has no fill, it has no stroke value, so it's nothing. But when we go into editing mode, we want to be able to see the outline. Okay, but let's go ahead and click fill just to give it a color. Okay, now look at these colors. Where are they coming from? We are going to do something. They're coming from swatches. Notice we have swatches as our selector. We could just click color and give it any color we want. Somehow. Well, this isn't giving me much. I could go to this gradient. Okay, so we could do a lot here. I'm going to come back to swatches. We're going to stick with swatches. Now, what we're going to do is make our own darn swatches, people. So what you're going to do is go to Window, and you're going to go to Color and Enable Swatches. It's likely turned off for you, so we're going to click that, turn them on, and we are going to notice, hey, here's that window with all of those ugly colors. Let's go ahead and make our own swatch. Number one, how do you know what color scheme you're going to use? Okay, this is how I'm going to start. I'm going to go to the Google machine, and I'm going to Google things. Like, I was looking at toads. I kind of like animals. I like starting with animals because animals actually have a lot of wonderful colors. Look at that yellowish green in the eyeball. Some nice brown tones along the lips, really nice light off-white along the belly area, like a lot of cool colors. And of course we're getting green from the grass. Same thing here, a lot of cool colors in here. There's like reddish, yellowish tints here. Great! You could look at wild finches, right? Here's some colors, really nice reds and pinks and browns. And notice this bird has a color scheme. Years and years of evolution has enabled animals to evolve color schemes that their mates can see, or maybe color schemes that allow them to hide in their environments, right? They also have nice colors in their legs, really beautiful speckles, a lot of textures. I am looking up brass bands maybe. I don't know. I'm going to steer away from animals right now and like look at the colors of a brass band. And I might want to use a brass color. A lot of orchestras, not brass band, an orchestra. A lot of orchestras use this beautiful red. High Point University uses this red all over the place. It's gorgeous. And then I might take some really nice colors from wooden floors. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stay away from the black and the white because I'm not allowing that, right? So I'm going to look for 3 hues. A brass hue, a red hue, and a wooden floor hue. And that's what I'm going to make my color scheme on. You're probably going to do something much different. Let's start with the brass. In your swatches panel, you're going to click the little hamburger button, which is the three lined button here, and you're going to say new color swatch. And when you do that, this little pop-up will happen. And this is going to take a little bit of time to get used to. We are going to look for the color that you need. Now, I instinctively know how to kind of drag around the cyan, magenta, yellow to kind of find what I want. And I'm really looking for brass. Now, here is something you could do. There are many ways to get this color. I could also go into finding a brass image, like this. Now, notice brass has a lot of reflection in it, so it's going to pick up the environment. So there's actually a huge variation of light and dark components of the brass color. I'm going to copy that image and go into Photoshop. And I'm going to, because I copied that image, I can click Create New and choose Clipboard. And I can hit Command V or Control V and paste. And let's go ahead and look at these pixels, right? I just zoomed in. These are some brassy pixels, right? And so notice there's a variation of darks to lights. I'm going to go ahead and just choose maybe one that will have a lot of hue to it. The thing is, if I choose one that's too light, it's already has a lot of white in there, right? So if we zoom out here, this highlight along this part of actually has a lot of white added to it, and so the hue is faded out. If you find a darker version of it, it might be that there's too much black added to it, which also leaves out some of the hue. So what I want to try to get is the unadulterated hue, or as something that has as much hue as possible, and I think it's going to be this one. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my foreground color, and I'm going to place my cursor over these to try to find a good example of a color I might want to use, okay? And what I'm going to look for is not RGB. You can see here there's R for red, G for green, B for blue, but the CMYK values. So this is 36, 56, 100, and then key is 21. Well, that's the key color. So I'm going to do 35, 55, 100 because I'm weird and I really want to land on the 5s. So 35, 55, 100. And that is what I'm going to use for my color. I'm going to say OK. And I have just created my first color. I can drag this from my swatch panel into there and drop it on. tap W, and there's my first color. Next video, we're going to get totally crazy. All right, see you then. Bye.